Okay, so my name is Nicole Bouchard, and I'm the Director of List Operations at RSW. If you are not familiar with RSW, we are a new business development agency. So we help marketing service firms find and win new business. I'm going to jump in and get started since we have a lot to get through. I've gone ahead and really broken down the process for building a targeted prospect list, essentially from beginning to end. So, in addition to tactically building the list, we're going to review the strategy involved to define our list qualifiers, and then the importance of day-to-day value add in research. So definitely ask questions through the chat pane. I may not be able to get to them immediately. And if that's the case, at the end of the webinar, we might have a few minutes to discuss those questions. Um, you know, I'll also post my email address up on the last slide, and you'll be able to reach out afterwards as well. Here we go. So based on our 12 years experience here at RSW, we know that a successful outreach program is dependent on the quality of prospects on your list. So finding the right prospect within each company is vital so that you can build relationships that will eventually lead to closing business. So we're going to review the process in 3 segments or stages. My goal is for you to walk away feeling confident in your ability to implement the process or a similar process to support your own programs. So the first step before you even think about tactically building out your prospect list is to take the time to develop a strategy. We want to find the selection of companies or prospects that are going to fit your, in quotations, sweet spot. So to do so, we need to review the qualifiers or attributes of a company that would make up that list, with the ultimate reminder that we're always trying to find where our best opportunity lies, even if it's often changing. So in the next handful of slides, we're going to walk through some recommendations that will easily lead you to nailing down your strategy quickly and efficiently. Okay. So your first step is going to you're going to conduct an agency self-review. Oftentimes we prospect based on what we have in our current list or pipeline and don't prospect outbound. So we're not necessarily tapping into a strategy. So to start from scratch, we need to have a plan that looks inward first. So take a look at the makeup of your agency. Some simple questions to get you started is, where is your current client and work? What does this look like? Are you spread out among multiple sectors, or are you focused on 1 or 2 sectors? What type of agency are you? Are you all digital, social? What type of agency do you want to be known as? Do you have specific goals? Additionally, where are your strengths, weaknesses? What sets you apart from other agencies? And then most importantly, what defines you amongst your peers? Second, you're going to look at the industries you serve. You may be an agency who serves multiple sectors. Let's narrow that down and only focus on 2 to 3 for a given period of time. It's completely okay to say you might have 7 sectors, to partition them out, prospect 2 to 3 of them for 6 months. And if things are going really well, hold off on the other sectors and define yourselves in the areas you've selected. A possible consideration is timing. Education, healthcare, and insurance all have cyclical considerations you might want to take into account. Is it better to prospect insurance well ahead of an open enrollment period? This might be something to take a look at. Again, these are all potential factors that might affect your decision on who you prospect at this time. So RSW has produced a study on the number of touch points needed on average within a sector to produce a meeting that you'll want to take into consideration. And when I mention touch points, I'm talking about any time you reach out to connect with a prospect. And listed above are, multiple touch points. So based off our agency roster of roughly 65 agencies, the chart demonstrates the average touch points it takes to break through for a first meeting per industry. So it's pretty eye-opening. What does this also tell us? That you have to consistently and effectively manage your prospects and engage them in content and material that will allow connections to take place. So geo is a consideration. We want to leverage commonality. So we see the best results for our agencies when we stay close and move out when prospecting. As you build your local database, build that strong, and then build out afterwards. So proven track record says that your best opportunities will be within those companies within the same revenue range as your current clients. Again, start there and then move out. For titles, we typically like to focus on C-suite, VP, and director level marketing contacts because those are usually our decision makers. So this can absolutely fluctuate based on the size of the company or companies we're targeting. So really large companies with multiple marketing departments will need a more fine-tuned title strategy. You may end up digging down to keywords within a title to grab that perfect person. Don't be afraid to attack a company on all different levels if the first go around wasn't a fit. You may realize that even though you want the CMO right away, you're able to break through and soften up a manager level title at first. This person may have some leverage and decision making capabilities. It's really making the right connections and leveraging them the right way. And additional qualifiers. Instead of additional, really, these are replacement qualifiers. So, for example, bed count, number of locations will replace revenue as a size qualifier for hospitals and franchises. AUM, which stands for assets under management, will replace revenue for financial institutions. And then your aspirational list. We always recommend just sprinkling those in. So you should end up with a one-pager or snapshot that defines the ideal prospect for outreach based on the qualifiers we just ran through. So this is a relatively quick exercise that sets the tone for a program and gets everyone within an agency on the same page regarding prospecting direction. So now that you have your strategy nailed down, we can move on to the tactical portion of building the list. So first and foremost, I'm going to walk through our list building process, understanding that every agency may need a slightly different approach depending on your resources available. So the important part, though, and I really can't emphasize this enough, is having a workflow plan in place to start with. So the next slide will demonstrate our workflow process and its efficiency. So you have a healthy strategy in place. Don't let it fall apart when you go to implement. An additional recommendation is really to put someone in charge of owning this process. So our workflow is as such. We built a large, what we call master list of 1 to 200 companies. So I'm sure you're thinking that's a lot. I don't have time to do that. And yes, it is a lot and it takes a lot of time, but you'll see why creating a large list of companies can benefit you in the long run and how scaling it to what you have available for regarding resources is still very easy. Is still a very easy organization process to follow. So you will then partition the companies out on a month-to-month basis. And finally, you will build in your contacts. So notice that we don't build contacts in until the third step. So you're going to build a company list, a master list of companies without contacts in them. And we'll walk through this. So we're ready to build our first master, and I've produced a little menu of varying resources that can be used to pull a list of companies. So each industry requires a unique set of tools to build their list, and it can often be a game of mix and match. One of these tools may be sufficient enough for you to pull all the data you need, while specific industries, their target areas, the size may require you to use multiple resources. So you'll want to pull your lists and save to one Excel workbook. Multiple sheets for review can work as well. So when we talk about a company master list, we do not want an overwhelming amount of data. We only want the qualifying data needed to determine whether the company is a fit or not. So remember, we reviewed in the strategy that qualifying data. We only walked through 6 or 7 points. That's all you really need when you build your master list. So you have your spreadsheet that you may have pulled from one resource or tool or multiple. You're going to start cleaning it up and cutting it down. Remove all the information that's not necessary. There are certain tools that will export 30 lines of different data. Again, if it's not a main qualifier, remove it. It's only adding noise to your list that you're not looking for right now. So too much information there cannot actually take away from the importance of the company review. So look how pretty that is. I know you really can't see exactly what's on the screen, but you get an idea of what a cleaned up master list might look like. If you have multiple sectors, you can separate them at the bottom of your Excel spreadsheet by tab, but it's just giving you very simple information: the company, website, city, state, revenue, an industry label, and then some notes. So at this point, you have an organized master list. You're now going to take the time to comb through each company and check websites for fit. So when you pull from multiple resources, or you yourself are not manually looking at a company at a time, the information may not be accurate based on how long that particular tool has housed the data. Again, this is if you're pulling from a resource or tool. And two, depending on where you pulled your information, there are different definitions for different industries. So even though you may have pulled healthcare med device, when you pull from certain resources, they may not actually be pulling what you may define as a medical device company. So again, going through those companies' websites, checking for fit, asking yourself if they're truly a fit for your agency. Do you have examples of work to send that would be relatable to that prospect? A better question is, can you bridge your work to them? And here's where we make your life a little bit easier. Now that you've built that nice, healthy master list, you can partition those companies out for the next 6 months or so. So, depending on what you decide to allocate each month towards prospecting, again, based on your resources, your original master list can be your resource for 1 to 2 quarters. So, this organizational technique allows you to balance your time and outreach effectively. If you went ahead and tried to build out contacts for 100 companies, and then you were looking for 2 to 3 at least contacts per company, it would just be way too much, and you couldn't possibly work to establish a relationship, dig deep into prospects, or work on meaningful connections. So by prospecting in small chunks on a monthly basis, you've organized a process and workflow to allow yourself the ability to manage your prospects and database. So this is what a partitioned master might look like. Each color represents a different month of prospects. So this list has been partitioned for 3 months. We only focus on building contacts for the selected month. So you will copy the companies for the specific month onto a separate spreadsheet and start building the additional information needed for a contact build. So the tan section up top represents 20, or I'm not sure, 30 companies for January. We're only concerned with building out contacts for those companies in January. So this is that copy and pasted section into a new spreadsheet. And now I can start my contact build when January arrives. I'm ready to start building my contacts for them. So within the contact build, you're going to add in additional information. And right now, I'm just going to do a very basic company website title, first name, or name, email, and address build for training's sake. So we've identified a healthy list of companies, and now we can build out the contacts. Our most trusted resource to use for confirming and qualifying contacts is LinkedIn. So most people take the time to update their LinkedIn because it's their own personal resume, and it's really always been our number one tool to use for the contact build. You'll want to use LinkedIn to identify at least 3 qualified decision makers. So I'm going to give you a very brief run through on how to use LinkedIn. I'll first show you through regular LinkedIn profile and then run through the advantages of the Sales Navigator version of LinkedIn. So I'm going to use Kroger as an example, and this is what pops up when I search and find Kroger. We have 57,000 plus employees, and I've clicked on that bold number up top. So it's going to bring you to a page like this that lists all of Kroger's contacts. You then want to select all filters to narrow down your search for the appropriate contact. So with regular LinkedIn, you're able to filter down a little. I typed in VP of Marketing in the title field to narrow down the list. which delivers me this list. So you can certainly work with that. But I want to show you 3 added benefits of Sales Navigator that make it a really standout tool for building lists. So we're going to go back to the main page, and instead of clicking on Employees on LinkedIn, we're going to click on the View in Sales Navigator tab, and you're launched into Sales Navigator. So added benefit number 1 is right here. One of the first places I go to when building contacts into a list is right here. Circled in green is the new role and past 90 days. So what you're currently seeing is actually not that populated tab. It's the showing the thumbnails of the 200 recommended leads. So I'm going to click on the new role tab. And look at Gil. I'm going to call him Gil. He may be Jill, but it's going to be Gil. So Gil was in my last research or last search on regular old LinkedIn, but I didn't know he either was just hired or was promoted to a new role. So we can see that right here. So I'm going to add him to my list. So we have Gil's information, and even better, we have some recommended leads down the right side. We see Brad and Alex as well. So you can up top save the contact and receive alerts when that contact has posted within LinkedIn. And now I'm going to add Gil to my Excel spreadsheet. So again, don't be overwhelmed with my graphics here. So I've added Gil's title, name, and then I've gone to Kroger's website to find the corporate phone and address information. So an additional tool we use to build in corporate headquarters address and headquarter address and phone numbers is Hoover's, but website is most reliable. And the last piece of information we need is Gil's email. So first, I'm going to check company website. Press releases often give away email formats, and HR pages will also list a person of contact, which could be a way to find email format. Hunter.io allows you to find email addresses by searching company domain name. It will produce a list of most common formats for that company. So for the Gil Phipps example, Hunter.io recommended first.last@kroger.com. And then another little trick that we've used to Google is *@domain name. And this will sometimes populate someone with the email format that you can use. And then lastly, just Googling different formats for that company. First.last @Kroger, first initial last name @Kroger.com. So usually when those 4 tips, you'll find someone with an email format that you can copy. So we've added our contact. That was benefit 1. Benefit 2 is keyword search within Sales Navigator. So we've gone back. Let's say we didn't find anyone within the new role tab that was applicable for us to add to our contact list. Instead, we want to go back to the main page of the company and click on that bold employee list again. And here I've circled keyword. Keyword is especially helpful if you're looking for very specific people, titles, and brands that sometimes are mentioned within the LinkedIn resume portion, but not their actual title. So this is immensely helpful in dialing down to the right prospect. And lastly, the third benefit of Sales Navigator can be that you can build and save lists within LinkedIn. So you'll select the Advanced tab, and it will drop down and offer up Search for Leads and Search for Accounts request. We're going to search for accounts. So I placed a search for companies using industry under the industry fashion and apparel. Geo was United States, and instead of selecting revenue for my size qualifier, I selected company headcount. So I've been working within the search function for a couple months or so and found that I get better results based off of headcount within LinkedIn. I'm not completely sure companies are placing their revenue or updating their revenue in LinkedIn, which is why pulling that qualifier has yielded low numbers, for me at least. So you can see at the top that I pulled 333 companies within that criteria. So again, these are just companies, and what I really want are the contacts contacts. In the far left corner, we want to select lead results. Let's see. So we have 169,000 lead results. So from here, we want to narrow down our search. So I'm going to work within the keyword, seniority, and title tabs to massage that list down to something a bit more manageable. So my first attempt was just to type in VP of Marketing in the title tab, and it populated 124 results. So I'm happy with that number, and I'm going to save the search. So again, where I've circled in green, save search, you can save it. So the beauty of this feature is that I can save it and go back to it when I have time. Unfortunately, you are not able to export lists from LinkedIn to use. So at a minimum, that save search has been really helpful. So now we're going to move on. We've built our master list, we've found contacts, built those contacts in. The last step is verifying, calling, and then testing the emails. So if you have the resources, it's always nice to have someone call through your list first. Simply connect with an operator to confirm that, Mary Smith is the director of marketing for Kroger and that she's located at, XYZ address. There are many times when we can't connect with the operator, so we'll frequently dial through the directory and note that the contact is at least in the company directory. Reasons we call through, we mail, so we like to provide the cleanest list possible. Calling through eliminates returned or helps eliminate returned mailers, and it also provides a second check on the information. And then finally, we want to test email deliverability. So we use a site called mailtester.com. So really, it's very simple. You pop the email address into the search tool, and if it's all green, it's good to go. If it shows up red, it's not good. That person most likely is not at the company anymore, or it's just you haven't found the right format, or that orangey color, which means maybe. And you are fine to add in maybes. It means it might be delivered, it might not be, but those are okay to run through or to test, I would say. And then finally, we have your day-to-day. So keep track of your activities. Email and track your data. Keeping track of what your prospects are doing and if you've connected is essential in managing a client list. So giving feedback on what's working and what's not is imperative to the success of the program. So remember, you can always re-strategize and rework that master list again. So phone call, email, mailer outreach, whatever you decide to add to your workflow gets sent out once a month to those prospects. You continue your basic outreach to those 40 to 60 prospects. Again, whatever you've decided to prospect on a monthly basis, even during the second month. And when you get a fresh batch of prospects, you remember those touch points, always keeping in contact, always having a touch point. So you're continuing outreach monthly. And then be hungry for information and make it part of your routine. Comb through news resources that align with your prospecting plan. Some really great tools for this include your local business journal, subscribing to a curated news resource that pulls content and news from the sectors you've selected. So do this early and do it often. Make it your new morning routine. When you surround yourself by content that immerses you in the sectors you're reaching out to, you become more entrenched and understand the prospect's needs that much more. So remember that the more you verse yourself on the potential pain points, the new hires, acquisitions, the better equipped you'll be when finally connecting with that potential prospect via phone or email. And that's it. I don't see any questions at this time. Let me see. So if no one has any questions, or if you think of any later, definitely email me at nicole@rswus.com. The webinar is being recorded and will be saved on our resource page and YouTube channel, and will also be in our RSW newsletter this Sunday. So thank you. Raina, that's a great question. And actually, I'm going to have to write that down and get you some numbers on that. Raina asked, what is the average response rate for email versus mailer? Definitely writing that down.